This Q&A is cats v monos, the endlessly debated question to which, is there ever an answer?
I don't know, but just to make sure you do understand what we're talking about, we don't mean these kinds of cats. No, we mean catamarans.
We do. It is a bit like cats v dogs, actually.
It is a bit, I suppose.
Yeah, it is.
It is possible to like both, though.
I think so, yes. It does generate a lot of interest. So, we're going to take sides, and in the blue corner, representing catamarans, is Jamie, and I'm going to stick with what I know, which is monos, in the red corner.
Okay, ding ding, seconds away, round one.
Comfort, it's the obvious one to talk about, and I think cats have something to say on that, don't they?
Yes, well, I think when it comes to comfort, catamarans win hands down. There's loads more light, there's less rolling, and there's just a lot more space. Yeah,
there is. It is true. There is a lot of light on a catamaran in that living area up the top in the deck saloon. Huge light all the way round, in most of them, not all. And on monos, yeah, we are. You can see we're down below here. It's not quite so light filled. However, I certainly, and usually you, spend most of our time in the cockpit where, let's be honest, there's a lot of light.
Yes, but in the cockpit of a catamaran, you can stick your beer down and it doesn't fall over.
That's very true, that is very true. So heeling is a problem for some people. And if you're rolling slightly different, of course, rolling in an anchorage is not so pleasant when you're doing this all the time. However, we were in a particularly rolly anchorage earlier in this year. We went to stay on a friend of ours' catamaran one evening, and I found the movement quite difficult.
It was a bit noisy, wasn't it?
It was noisy and it felt very odd. But the other thing about heeling, and I think that most monos owners and sailors would say, there is a real thrill when you catch the wind and the boat heels over and you just slide through the water there. I love that. Performance.
Round two, ding ding.
Okay, cats win on speed. There is no doubt that cats go faster. However, because they're not so good at wind angle, they can take longer to get there.
Yeah, but you know, their speed is significantly faster, so you know, even if they have to tack more because they can't get a closer wind angle, they still probably get there quicker anyway.
Yes.
And once they are there, don't forget that when they can anchor right in close to shore as well.
Yeah, they can. We can't do that. We do have to anchor further out, but we have a decent dinghy that will get us anywhere we want to, and also I quite like being further out because we're not in the crowd there. But it's not always about speed, you know. Just getting somewhere comfortably and enjoying the actual journey is part of the joy. So while I would agree that I think cats are better for coastal hopping and steady trade winds, I think in more turbulent seas and in harsh conditions I'd be much happier in a mono.
Yeah, but try telling that to all the world cruising catamarans that are out there.
When it comes to provisioning on a mono, you can pack it to the gunnels. You really can put as much as you like, wherever you like. You haven't got to worry about balancing either side or anything like that.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, catamarans, you have to be a little bit more careful about how you pack your stuff. But once it's packed, at least you know it's not going to fall over.
Yeah, that's true. Safety. If you're on a mono and the wind increases suddenly, comes out of nowhere, and you get knocked down, the boat will right itself. And that's what blue water cruisers are built for. They can get through anything.
Yeah, I suppose on a catamaran you have to sail a little bit more conservatively, and the general consensus I think is that you have to reef sooner. So one could argue that maybe you have to be slightly more competent sailor on a catamaran, I don't know. Just got to sail a bit more conservatively.
Yeah. Perhaps not safety, but the motion of a cat in heavy turbulent seas is extremely unnerving and very worrying, and that's something I don't really want to ever have to experience.
Yeah, I suppose if I admit, I'll tell you a little quick story about the time that I did a delivery from Portugal to the Canary Islands. It's 500 miles and we got hit by a really nasty storm and it was quite close to the wind as well, so it was very uncomfortable. It basically felt like the two hulls wanted to pull apart. We were bouncing along in such a way that all the drawers in the galley flew open and we had to tie lines around the drawers just to keep them closed, and stuff was flying around everywhere. I've got to say, it was not the most comfortable sail.
Interesting. They say that a mono sits in the water and that a cat sits on the water when they have this argument. And a cat is far more likely to pitch pole in bad weather than a mono. And to be honest with you, that is my biggest fear.
Yeah, I mean, having said that, how many catamarans do you know actually do that in the real world? It doesn't happen that often. Ding ding, round 4, maintenance.
Well, I think monos win hands down on maintenance, and for one simple reason, that on a cat you've got twice as much work to do because you've got 2 engines, every pump is doubled up, every hose is doubled up. Ugh, nightmare.
Yeah, but you've got double the contingency, surely, because you've got 2 engines. So if one goes down, at least you have another one to help get you out of trouble.
True.
Final round, round 5, costs.
I don't think you have a chance on this one because cats are really expensive to buy, they're really expensive to maintain, they're really expensive to put in marinas, really expensive to haul. In any case, they're always more expensive than a monohull.
Yeah, okay, I think I'm going to have to give you that one. I think the one area where they might be cheaper is rigging, because they have less rigging.
Yeah.
You look at our boat, Esper, I mean, she's an over-rigged ketch cutter, whereas, of course, you know, there's not much rigging on a catamaran. Everything else you say is completely true.
So, do you think that this little exercise has made either of us rethink?
Well, to use your favourite expression, it's like chocolate and chips, isn't it? You can't really compare the two. They both have their advantages, they both have their disadvantages.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. In my heart, I have to say, I'm still mono. I did read a comment the other day on Facebook where someone made the statement that monohull owners, if they were honest, if they had more money, they would actually buy a catamaran. And I think we'd just buy a bigger monohull.
I think we would, and I think we know which one as well. Okay, well, in summing up, all I would like to say then is that when you dream of this life and you see yourself sailing off into the sunset, do you see yourself in a big white box?